Remember when the governor of Illinois got arrested and sent to prison? Now, the guy's name is Rod, and Rod is around 45 when all this starts, and he's living in Illinois. And Rod, he's kind of a big deal. So it's 2002, and he just got elected as the Democratic governor of the state, and he is really popular, a man of the people, you might say. Here's the thing about Rod, though. He really loves the spotlight. And what bigger spotlight would he ever get than to one day run for president of the United States? Now, if he's ever going to do that, he's going to need to raise a lot of funds. And it turns out that he's actually pretty good at raising funds. But he's also especially shady about raising funds. That is to say, he likes to trade government power for campaign cash. So one day, he tells two of his fundraisers to start soliciting for campaign funds. And whoever donates to him will get rewarded with government contracts or like political appointments and stuff. And now, not surprisingly, politics is a shady business. So this actually works. Donors start donating and Rod keeps his word. He rewards the donors with government contracts or whatever in return. So what are these guys really getting in exchange for their donations? Well, for example, one guy wants a top government job, the kind that comes with a bit of influence. So he donates $50,000 to finance Rod's re-election campaign for governor, and Rod appoints him as the executive director of the Illinois Finance Authority. Another guy, who's a lawyer, donates to Rod's campaign fund, and in return, Rod gives him influence over which consulting law firms get picked to represent the state. And if all that isn't shady enough, Rod doesn't stop at giving out government contracts. At some point, he starts to straight up extort state congressmen and other people he's legally required to help. And as you might have guessed, not all of this money goes into his governor re-election campaign funds. He personally takes some of it for himself, of course. And this corruption goes on for about a year, and then in 2003, things start to get complicated for him because this woman comes into the picture, Pam. And Pam, she's a hospital CEO, and she wants to build a new hospital in Plainfield, Illinois, and she's already got the funding, and her contractors are ready. All she needs is the state government's approval, but suddenly, the state blocks it, and she can't build the hospital. And a member of the state government's planning board tells her that for her hospital to be approved, she needs to use Rod's preferred construction firm to build it, which I guess is someone who has already paid Rod to take control of building contracts. Now, Pam, she's not stupid. She knows something shady is going on. I mean, why would the state government block her hospital? So she goes straight to the FBI and she's like, I think the governor is up to something shady. And the FBI is like, no way, bro. So the feds start investigating and they set up this whole sting operation where they ask Pam to wear a wire and continue her meetings with the planning board. And that's exactly what she does. For the next 8 months, she meets with the Illinois Health Facilities Planning Board and she secretly records all of her meetings while the FBI is standing by listening in. And eventually in 2005, the feds gather enough evidence and bam, they arrest the head of the planning board. And pretty quickly, this head of the planning board guy, he starts snitching on everyone. He snitches on all kinds of people in Rod's administration, including Rod. Specifically, he tells them that Rod's fundraisers pulled in about $5 million from nearly 200 donors. And in exchange, Rod gave those donors government jobs and government contracts. And once all this news comes out, this story blows up in the media, especially in Illinois, and the public starts accusing Rod of being corrupt. And of course, Rod comes out and he denies that he ever did anything wrong. But lucky for him, the FBI doesn't yet have enough evidence to tie the crimes directly back to him, so they can't arrest him, and he carries on and continues to reign as governor of the state. Now it's at this point that Rod could stop all this corrupt nonsense and chill out and govern his state properly, but that's not what he does. Instead, he just keeps going. Like one hospital CEO refuses to donate $50,000 to his campaign. So in retaliation, Rod blocks a children's hospital funding bill, stuff like that. And this goes on for years. But then in 2008, something happens that you're probably already familiar with. A US senator from the state decides to run for president of the United States, a senator named Barack Obama. And as you already know, Obama wins. And so that year he resigns from the Senate to go be president, which means his Senate seat is now vacant and needs to be filled. Now, according according to state law, the governor, also known as Rod, has this authority to appoint a new senator until an election can be held. And so pretty quickly, some of Obama's top aides reach out to Rod and they suggest a possible candidate to nominate. And the second Rod hears this, he sees an opportunity to make some money and to make a name for himself. So he's like, sure, I'll appoint the next senator. I'll appoint this woman that Obama is recommending on one condition. Rod wants Obama to give him a position in the president's cabinet in exchange. He wants to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, or better yet, an ambassadorship of some sort. Because remember, Rod wants to be president of the United States himself one day. And not only does he want to be in Obama's cabinet, but he also wants Obama to help him raise money for his campaign fund. And Obama and his aides, they hear this crooked offer and Obama's like, nah, fuck all that. And they distance themselves from the situation. But Rod, he isn't about to give up on this. He's determined to benefit from this open Senate seat one way or another. So he calls around to other people who want to be senator and he tells them that if they want him to appoint them, they have to pay him $1.5 million. $1.5 million to be a senator. Here's the thing though, what Governor Rod doesn't know is that the feds are still monitoring him from back when the head of the planning board snitched on him over that previous scandal. And they've actually been tapping his phones and recording meetings inside his campaign office. And the second they hear him talk about selling that vacant Senate seat, they know they got to act fast. And so the feds show up to his house and bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. Here's what's crazy though. While he's waiting for his trial, he gets out on bail. And it's then that he starts doing a media tour because remember, he loves the spotlight. So he goes on all these TV shows supposedly to make himself more of a celebrity because apparently juries are a lot less likely to convict a celebrity. So he ends up going on Good Morning America. He goes on The View. He goes on Larry King. He goes on The Daily Show. He goes on David Letterman several different times, but most importantly, he becomes a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice, hosted by none other than Donald Trump. Now, while he was able to raise his public profile, the whole being a celebrity thing doesn't actually end up helping him in the courtroom because he eventually goes to trial over all this twice and he ultimately gets sentenced to 14 years in prison. But then after 8 years of being locked up, I guess somehow in prison, he starts kissing Donald Trump's ass because Trump, who is now president, just suddenly commutes his sentence. And then in 2025, he actually gives him a full pardon. And so Rod is out now and he very publicly claims that he never did anything wrong. Even though the feds got him on tape, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And he also now claims that he is a Democrat for Trump.